Good morning, and thank you for your informative testimony this morning. I'd like to have a conversation with you about the Go Time initiatives. Just one suggestion in the future, if they could print it in a larger font for those of us that are aging, would be great. But I know it's efficient.
I will put that suggestion into the Go Time office.
But, you know, it's being much more efficient because you're using less paper. So that's a good thing.
I'm sure that was part of their calculation.
Right. You obviously were here under Governor Rendell, and I'm just wondering how the Go Time initiatives have played into your experience in the prior administration, and what has changed to, I guess some of the changes would be along the technology lines from what I see, but I'd just like to get your feedback on your experience before and coming in now and say, hey, if I was ever get the opportunity to do it again, I'd do things this way.
So I think that Go Time, there were similar initiatives under the Rendell administration. I think there's always opportunities to make better use of technology, to be a little more efficient in the way we do things. I think that having an office centered in the governor's office that focuses on that is probably a good idea. I think working with departments and finding ways they can work together will help us deliver services in a more efficient manner. And I think under Governor Rendell, it might have been called the Office of Management and Productivity or something like that. And so it's called Go Time now, but I think similar initiatives have proven that they can save the state millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Every governor comes in and is going to be efficient, and someday Pennsylvania's motto will be the most efficient state. Yeah. One of the areas when we go out and visit providers in the community is they deal with various departments in government, and a lot of times they will be completing applications and they provide the information to one department and they have to redo the same information on a different application to other departments. You'd indicated that the governor has centralized technology in one spot. Am I correct in saying one department's overseeing that? Is there an initiative to?
I know that in the Governor's Office of Administration, Go Time is housed there, and there's also a CIO for the state that works there, but they coordinate with CIOs in each of the agencies. Is
there a drive to coordinate applications? I see in one instance there's going to be a mobile app for iPhones.
Sure.
There's some applications or web-based initiatives. Will there be some coordination among departments to create efficiencies for providers so that they're not coming back asking for more money?
So absolutely. As a Samsung Galaxy owner, I'll say the app will also work hopefully on a Samsung Galaxy, not just an iPhone. But the things like that mobile app, I think there's a huge opportunity there. So if you think about, I'll take a step back for a second. The CIO that we have that works for us is also the CIO for the insurance department and the aging department. And I think that part of the reason the CIOs have portfolios like that are folks realize that there are opportunities to do that, right? So there's some of that we'll be able to do through technology, through mobile apps, so folks don't have to come into a county assistant's office. They can submit documentation through their phone. They take a picture of it like you do when you deposit a check or things like that. That will also help us be more efficient. Less, we won't need as many human resources to do those things. Those folks will be able to focus more on higher value-added things. But I think when you look at the approach overall in the state, there is an opportunity to go across departments. Now, I know, for example, PennDOT is very good at building mobile apps. They have done a lot of electronic data capture. We're working with them, and they've offered services to us, and we've seen areas where we might be able to use some of the expertise that they have there. In addition, you mentioned having to fill out information over and over again. An area where that happens is licensing. So there are a lot of facilities that are licensed by multiple parts of my department, and rightfully so. Providers say, I can't believe I have to fill this information out over and over again. We have a licensing work group that is going to come up with some recommendations this spring. Some of them will be finding ways to make it so that they only have to provide information once. Overall, all those things will make us more efficient and also make it easier for our providers to do the job they're supposed to do, which is helping folks that need it as opposed to filling out paperwork for bureaucrats like me.
Thank you. That's refreshing to hear. To follow up on Representative Quinn's question related to headcount in the department, not being familiar, not being on the committees that really address the issues that you do on a daily basis, One would think the more technology and the more efficient, sometimes that leads to a lower head count. But I suspect that there's probably a lot of other regulations from the federal government that come into play that maybe increase your costs. So could you talk a little bit about what's being done on the federal level to help and what's being done to really hinder what you're trying to get accomplished in Pennsylvania? In 3 minutes.
Okay, I will just say this. There are a lot of places where the federal government helps us, and there are a lot of places where the federal government could be a little more flexible, make our life a little easier. I think that they have, the administration in Washington has embraced some of the things that are priorities here in Pennsylvania as well in terms of human services, whether it was some of the changes that were under the Affordable Care Act, and there were some changes under the Affordable Care Act that didn't make things easier too, but there are also things like embracing community-based care. One example is they have a grant process out there now for community-based behavioral health clinics. We had there's a grant process that we were awarded in the first round, a planning grant, but that is working to make our system more flexible and be able to provide behavioral health services in places where folks get other services, particularly folks who might not be comfortable reaching out directly for behavioral health services. So by finding ways to get flexibility and changing some of those funding streams and making them more flexible, I know Representative Acosta mentioned the 4E waivers. That's another example where we have that flexibility. By doing those things, they allow us at the state level to be a little more innovative and to spend the money on the things that we think will help people the most.
Well, I thank you, and I hope you're successful in saving the $19 million. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.